Hi everybody, this is Katie. Welcome to episode 7 of Enchanted Emerald Isle. Today we'll be finishing off the last of the villager houses and the big long beach that runs along the right side of the island. Here you can see where we left off last time. I've got the 3 houses, one here below and then 2 up here on the cliff. And there's a big, beautiful area just to the left of these houses, and that is where I'm going to be putting a little quaint country-style farm. Down from the incline here, we're going to head over. You'll see where it connects to the river on the other side, and then to the right is, of course, the beach. We have a lovely rock here that has very good potential for space, and it's just up from that to get to the peninsula. And then we have a big long stretch of beach again before we get to the rock in the back, and just a little bit more grass space before we have the secret beach. So it's really unique spaces that we're working in today. The first area I decided to work on is the farm area up here on the cliff, and I am near Murphy's house, which is on the right up here, and Anchovy's house, which is the one on the left in the cliff space. I decided to outline a little bit of the farm because I wasn't sure how far the garden area was going to go. So I pulled out the fencing first, and I start by just going around the area to determine how big the garden space was going to be. And once I get a good feel for how that's going to take up the space, I start putting in the custom pathing underneath. I use alternate lines of the light dirt and the dark dirt. And this is a really good way to create a garden looking area because the 2 dirts don't combine together. So you get the line illusion that we are used to seeing with gardens. And that also means that I can pretty much plant or put whatever I want in place and it'll look like a garden. I decided to move the silo over so that it was closer to the houses. And I did that because I like having taller design elements in a little bit more the middle of an area. You can see I'm also adding some farm decorations down, just the hand cart and hay bale and a couple of things in place to add the really cute farm elements to the space, but not too much. I didn't want to over decorate the farm area. It's just a really cute little neighborhood style farm up here. So I'm connecting a little bit of a path over to the area too, as you can see, so that you know to go over and look at the farm. Otherwise it would be impossible to know that it was up here to begin with. And then I start this process again, filling in the clovers. It ended up being a lot of work every single time I did each build in this island particular series because the clover path went on every single space of the entire island, every single space that wasn't filled up with something else. Here you can see that darker path as I get it in place, and that should show you what I was talking about with the illusion of a garden where you have the 2 different rows, one and then the other. I left a couple gaps so that I would have room to walk and maneuver about, and then I start putting some of the pumpkin starters in place. This garden isn't going to be any particular garden. I'm going to have weeds and flowers, mushrooms, and pumpkins that go in the garden up there. So mostly I was just getting started with some of the pumpkins that were already in my pocket because I know that those will have to grow up before we can see what the garden looks like. Here I'm just dropping in a few of the fully grown trees in place. I am using more of the evergreen trees than I am of the regular trees, and that's partially because I want it to look a little bit more elevated and foresty up there. I've also got bushes that I pre-grew for the area and a bunch of different things that I am dropping in place that are just like the ones that we used in the previous 2 episodes where we were building in the neighborhood. I've got the green street lamps that are going everywhere. I really love the way that the green street lamps help the area, and just leaf piles and little decorations here and there, but not too much. That's been my theme for the entire island. Quaint and country and not too much. Back here on the rock, I put this little mossy stone and arch down. I want the graveyard, which is where I'm working in back, I want it to look ancient, kind of old, and as if it has been on the island for so many generations that maybe we don't even know who all of the gravestones are for. That's the kind of the feel, but also that it's a graveyard that is well visited and part of the community. So with that in place, I could go ahead and leave that rock there and back with just the fencing, the arch, and the stones, so that it looks very ancient. And here I've got the gravestones that I'm putting in place, and I decided to sort of stagger them back and forth a little bit. And while graveyards are usually more straight, I decided to stagger them because of the way that the graveyard is along this back corner. It's not a really, typical space for a graveyard to go, which is why I staggered them so that you could see the gravestones in kind of layers as you walk into the area. Next to the graveyard here, and kind of part of that space, I decided to put a stone table with a little bit of a community area to sit and enjoy the beach. And so of course I'm putting more of the path down. This path really does a lot to make the beach part of the build area that it's next to. And as I get the stones and stuff in place, it really came together, this beautiful little angle that the stones and the table ended up going down in with the path. I liked it. I liked the way that it moved my eye down the beach towards the back. And so it was a good fit for the area. Here I'm just trying to put in a little bit of trees and greenery wherever possible, and I decide I don't want the graveyard to go endlessly along the back of the island, so I use the stone fence to stop the graveyard area in a few places. Now that I'm done with that, I moved on to the peninsula where I'm going to do the beautiful lighthouse. It's nice to have a lighthouse on the peninsula because it just makes sense to me. I don't know. I know we do a lot of lighthouses on the peninsula, and maybe one day I'll think of another way to do the lighthouse so that it fits in. But for now, if a lighthouse is supposed to be a lighthouse, then it just, it works on the peninsula. So that may not be the most creative thing, but I do still like it. I can go ahead and put the clover path down because, again, I'm making clover grass all over the island, and I dropped that lighthouse down and I moved down to the rock here. Now my favorite part about this rock is that you can see the lighthouse in the distance, and having a little extra height on the peninsula there makes it look as if the lighthouse is coming out of the horizon when you're moving down the beach, and I do love that. So I definitely wanted to put a pretty little sitting area right where you could see that lighthouse in the distance. And Callie, as soon as I put the chairs down, Callie started using them, which was pretty cute. And you'll see the log chairs are a very basic little pattern. I used the same pattern on the pillows of those log chairs as I used for the blanket on the beach. There's a lot of times when you're working on a build that a pattern that may have a purpose for something else, it may be intended for something else on the island, can be used, such as the middle of a beach blanket, or your flag design can sometimes be incorporated in other ways. So just because a pattern wasn't created for a specific space doesn't mean it won't work there. I ran out of fully grown trees, so I did have to go ahead and plant a bunch of new ones. And as I get them in place, I of course will be time traveling forward so that we can see what this area looks like when it's complete. But I'm starting to wrap up the last few details, so I'm getting the flowers and bushes and trees all dropped in. I want this to be a peaceful forest area that runs down the side of the beach next to these really nice little areas to sit and enjoy the ocean. Let's take a look at the final area. Up here on the cliff, as I pass Anchovy and Murphy's house, we have our garden in the back. And you'll see now that it is grown up. I have the flowers, pumpkins, weeds, and mushrooms that are filling the area so that the garden would look very eclectic, very old style. And then as we come down from their houses, we will pass by Quilson's house into a little bit more of this forest area. Now, my goal for this area of the island was to have it be a very spring, very enchanted style garden, kind of forest space. I wanted the palm trees and the regular trees and all the flowers to go back and forth and really pull together a look as if you were going through a forest as we walk to the back where we have all of the gravestones set up in our graveyard. You'll see that table there. I put a book on it, and then we have the ancient mossy stone in the back. And I imagine that to be some distant memorial, maybe of a pioneering individual who settled the island. I hope you guys found something useful here and that you continue creating in this game. Until next time, have the best Animal Crossing day.